Will you kindly stand and join me in pledge allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Thank you, everyone. We have any public comments? All right, do we have any consideration for adjustments?
Yes, sir. I have one for you today. This is a large estate lot in Grogan's Point. It's a residential, a leak on the residence home service line. The leak started on February the 3rd. It started as a small leak, but you could detect it on Water Smart. They did not get alerted until February 10th, where it became a continuous usage situation. They did have it fixed, but not until 210,000 gallons had gone through the meter. Their average is 14, so they're due a credit of 196,000 or $1,294.61.
Wow.
They do have repairs and they do qualify, and we're recommending approval.
Sorry. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Yes.
Opposed?
I have a question. Why wasn't it detected sooner?
I'm not sure I understand the question. They were out of town.
Oh, they were out of-
They did get an alert,
Oh,
but they did not fix it until the 15th. They shut it off themselves. There's a long lengthy letter about how the neighbors tried to help this individual and they could not shut the meter off. We shut the meter off for them. Just as soon as we got it.
In Grogan's Point Road.
Well, you're not supposed to see that, sorry. Yeah,
Okay.
that should have been flagged.
I've got blocked up. Okay. All right.
Don't let the DA know. Don't let that happen.
Well, we should get another one here in the next few days. My neighbor had a leak and they were under construction and the tree near there fell over and pulled up the
Yeah,
vacuum pressure relief valve or
yeah.
irrigation. They pulled it up.
I think we're gonna find that now that people are starting to turn their sprinklers on,
Yeah,
that,
It-
crack or
well,
hair
it-
leaks or something.
it ran down the ditch for a couple thousand feet. So,
Okay, we had a vote.
All right.
Could you say again how much money's involved in this?
It's $1,294.61.
Okay.
It's over 1,000 has to come to you
And
all.
that's the wholesale rate.
That's the wholesale
Okay.
cost. Yeah, it's credited back to their average of 14,000 gallons.
Thank you.
All right, I'll call the vote again. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right,
okay.
do we need to call each individual person? I mean, I'm the only one that said
I
aye.
think you got three.
I said, yeah.
Got,
Got three.
You got 3 or 4. They were kind of quiet about it. No, it was quiet about it.
We introduce Justin Hayes around here.
Give us
Consent agenda. Does any member have any items they request to change on the consent agenda?
I'll move for approval.
Before we do that, I've got a question to ask from, I guess, rules. On the minutes of the meeting, we talked about the One Water Task Force. Do we talk about that now or do we talk about it during the general manager's report?
Talk about it a little bit.
Okay. Do I have a motion again to approve the consent agenda?
I'm so moved.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Harley. Regular agenda, receive the Central River Authority report.
Good morning. On item number 9, we only have one item. Oh, I have 2 items, I guess. One is there is an updated monthly report for us. Some of the numbers on page 1 and 2 for the water production and blend ratios were off, so we had that adjusted and printed a new report, so that's here. The other items Summer is going to discuss.
Hi, good morning, Summer Hill Hospice
Just
here.
a second, before you get to that, you said page 31 of ours, or,
That's a good point. I did check.
well, because I had a question on that.
It's,
It was,
this here.
it didn't look right. I thought it was reversed, okay?
Yeah.
And it
31 and
was.
32. It was.
Okay, all right.
You got it.
All right. Thank you. That clarified.
I appreciate that.
Already have one.
Okay. So at this time, we would like to recognize Mr. Bob for his service this past year on the wastewater strategic plan committee. We had lots of long meetings and we appreciate your guidance and your input throughout this process. And thank you for dedicating your time and helping us.
This is a surprise. Well, thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it, Summer.
Yes, sir.
Is it check in the mail?
Yeah.
Next in the mail.
Anything else, Chris?
That's all we have.
All right, report on the Spring Creek detention.
So no real update on that, other than we're continuing to select a date here, probably around end of April timeframe for the next public meeting. So that'll be here in the Woodlands, most likely in the township. So stay tuned for official notices to go out on that.
How many people did we have at the first meeting?
I think around probably about 70. Is where we were, 60, 70.
Wow.
And that was out at the community center in Wallen.
All right, anything else? Any questions? All right. Item 11, received the attorney's report.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gordon Craner. I'm covering for Brian and Katie, who are both traveling today. Don't have much under the attorney's report, other than Brian and Katie apologize for being here. The only update that I have is, as you know, the legislative session is currently ongoing. We, Schwartz, Page and Harding, in connection with AWDB and some other law firms, have a big list of bills that we've submitted or are trying to get passed. It's entirely too early to tell which, if any of them, will make it through. A question was asked at Metro last night if there were any bills that we need to be particularly concerned about in our industry. My answer is nothing that we really need to be concerned about. I mean, there are always some things that are troubling, but from what I understand from the folks in our office that work legislatively, they're all dead on arrival. So.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the attorneys? All right, item 12, consider an act on the communication and information message. This is something that Jeff and I are working on, and had communications with John about it, and so we'll be getting that out to him within the next few weeks. Do you have anything to add?
No, I saw something from another organization in a different area that they were trying to do this exact same thing. Almost exactly like the example we had before. So yeah, I think they're on the right track.
Are any of the other MUDs doing this other than, I think it was 47?
47's doing it. I think 60 is doing it also.
Several.
6, 36,
60.
60, and 46.
Quite a few, almost all.
There's nothing wrong with saying the same thing, is there, that one of the other months is saying? I mean, there's no
Some of the
ownership that,
messages do overlap
Yeah.
several months, and I think it's appropriate to do that.
yeah, I think the example we had on 47 is really good, you know, and we would come out with the same type of information on some of it, like with the elections and then who's your MUD directors and everything, so. Is that intended to be emailed or mailed?
It's been decided both. Some have decided to do the e-blast and some have actually decided to put it in the bill. Or one, either or both.
Who would be responsible for generating the text and the copy that you're going to, is that something that John Geiger would do? Or-
So what some of the other modes have done is they had some ideas, but essentially they worked with John. John kind of built the template, if you will, if that's what it's called. and made some minor modifications as each mud wanted. And so you'll be, if you're gonna do it, you'll kind of be starting with the starting template that he created, and then you can modify as you see fit. Some have changed it quite a bit, some have kind of kept it to the same format. But generally, it's all the same, it's pretty similar format.
We'll make sure everybody on board sees it before we put it out.
Excellent idea.
Yeah, there's some general information that's going to be consistent. If there's anything specific, I think that's the thing you need to think about is what specific to Mud One would you like to tell the residents?
In fact, if you'll look at that, any input you can give will be very helpful. All right, anything else? Okay, 13, received general manager's report.
All right, thank you. Good morning. Just have a couple of things to go over. To update everybody on, as you all may have heard, Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District did appoint a new director to its vacant position. That gentleman's name is Gary Dent and actually lives in Mud One. So I don't know if anyone knows him or not, but
There's some question on whether he lives there. I think the address is 34 Half Moon Court. But I talked to some people on the street that don't know him at all. And so, and I have sent a request into the Lone Star for information related to that. And Samantha has not yet responded, so.
Are they gonna send you a bio? Because when they were selecting, are they probably gonna have a resume of everybody?
There's very little information. Laura Norton got some information about him, and then I got some more that was on LinkedIn, but it was still very, very sketchy on what his background is. So there are some legitimate questions that people have. And what I don't understand is to be appointed or elected, do you have to own property in the Woodlands or just live in the Woodlands? And maybe, can you answer that question?
This is to the SJRA. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah,
Lone
Lone
Star.
Star.
I'm not sure on Lone Star.
Yeah.
I can check into that.
We can check the voters rolls and see if he's registered.
it lists him as he is a resident, has a water bill through WWA. But it looks like there's a different name on the ownership of the home.
So, yeah, my understanding is that he is renting.
Well, let's see if he's a registered voter.
That's the key.
That's the critical one.
That is.
But being a registered voter just means you live in the Woodlands. Doesn't mean you're a property owner.
Right. You don't have to be a property owner to be on board of trustees for Lone Star.
You know, that's what I'd like to find out. So,
Grant Dotson is the owner of 34.
So he's renting.
Yes, yeah.
The saga continues.
Next item that I have is, as y'all are probably aware, we had to do some significant work on Wedgewood Lake. We had a pretty major cave-in or sinkhole there on, I guess, the north side. 36-inch storm sewer pipe caved in. And so we worked with the township, sent out several notices to the community, both through us and through the township, just to let everybody know what we were about to do. Then we worked with the township to drain the lake, got in there, and I think we finished the project in about 3 days of actual work on the pipe, which was pretty quick, and then started refilling it. We put in a pump throughout the days, and then still not full. Obviously, we need some rain to get it full. But the interesting thing is when the pipe was repaired and the lake was lowered, it made us aware of a waterline leak further up one of the feeders. And so we actually were able to go in and fix that waterline leak that probably it was underwater and probably no one saw for quite some time. We also found 2 other storm pipes that were also completely deteriorated. So we've now gone in and fixed the original 36, the water line leak, and both the 24-inch storm sewer pipes. So all of that's been repaired, and we're working on final cleanup of the areas, resodding, things like that. And then we've, like I said, the lake's not full, but hopefully with some rain, we'll get it'll fill up pretty quick.
Pretty obvious. We got a lot of negative comments on social media from people, and it's amazing. I think also, even though email blast was sent out, and also the township, sent out something, that people still were questioning what was going on there.
Yeah, we fielded several, had numerous calls here.
Yeah, there is a lot of interest in the neighborhood. I kept going over there each day to see how things were going on. And they seem a little more positive once you put the sign that you were doing lake restoration work. That was good. The sight of all the ducks out there getting the last of the fish was kind of upsetting to everybody. What is the project that's going on at the at Lake Woodlands, the Lake Woodlands Drive, and the feeder into Wedgewood Lake?
That was one of the backslope drains that Eric mentioned.
Okay. And the other thing I was concerned about was the cost. And do we have enough funds to be taking care of this? Because it's a huge project.
Yeah, it morphed into a pretty large project. We have not got all the costs identified yet, and we had a pump out there for 7 days. We did have a diver go out there. Just the initial part was a diver, and that was $6,000 just to get the diver to go out there and try and plug the pipe. So I don't have a final cost yet, but we're gonna have it broken down into the 3 different items that we did repair.
Okay. Well, the neighbors seem to be much calmer now, and I appreciate the fast work that your team.
I did get an email from Chris Nunes last night, wondering if we're gonna continue pumping, and I said, no. Our pumping ended on Friday. We're just gonna let Mother Nature do the rest of the job. But based on the forecast for March, the lake should fill based on the estimated rainfall for this month.
Thursday looks good.
Thursday looks pretty good.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Before you leave that, I started thinking about, my work career, preventative maintenance programs, and I thought about the ditch inspection that we did, 5 years ago, and whether it's worthwhile for us to revisit that, to see what the cost would be for Woodlands Water to have someone regenerate this again, to see exactly if there's other issues out there that we could repair or need to be repaired before it ends up breaking like this. It's a lot cheaper to fix it.
Anything around the lake that submerges, you can't televise it. There's no way to inspect it without draining the water.
I understand that, but there could be things out there that we need to fix now.
Oh, absolutely.
So do we have any comments about that? I mean,
I don't know if we have a tally on how many issues that were uncovered during those ditch inspection walks. If we knew that, then you'd know whether it's worthwhile putting the money into doing that. We almost lost Bob on.
I'm not saying for us to do it again. I'm saying.
So I don't know if that would have,
Well,
that would have been a huge, we couldn't have,
Our mowers,
yeah,
anything, sinkholes or anything
exactly.
that they notice, and then we do the ditches once a year in-house.
Yeah,
It's done automatically. Yeah.
what we could do is just reach out to them, our contractor, and ask that they take a close look when they go through. That's what they're doing anyway, and they haven't reported anything major, but maybe it's just worth asking them to look a little closer as they go through. That way you're not doing a full-blown report.
As Walt pointed out, we have, Hal and I and a bunch of us walked every foot of every ditch in Mud One at one time or another. And we took photographs of every drain pipe, every ditch. And it'll be interesting to make comparative pictures of, and that was about 5-6 years ago.
But it's 2017.
Yeah, so it'd be worthwhile doing it again.
Hartley?
Yeah, please understand, Wedgemud Pond belongs to the township. That is not ours. And while we had to drain it, I thought they would go in and do some work at the township level to take care of the places where we have a buildup of sand every year. And about every 4 years, they have to drain it because out in the middle of the pond, you have the birds sitting there because the water's only 2 feet, a foot deep or something. That entire area has been a problem because it was put in during a very dry year. And we spent $500,000 on the Wedgemud Pond pipe that was running along Wedgewood Drive here about 30 years ago. So it's an ongoing problem and I'm glad you're on top of it. And the reason you're not pumping anymore is because you already drained the adjacent drainage ditch. And the pump was pumping mud.
Yeah, let me just clarify. Based on the plans, there should have been 4 or 5 feet of water left. We had not anticipated that the lake had silted in 4 or 5 feet. So
That was filled initially with well water.
Yeah.
And was swimmable and was beautiful little pond. And of course, now it is like all of the detention ponds in the Woodlands. It's got runoff from everybody, and that's what the ponds are for.
Yeah.
But they're not, none of them are swimmable, to include like Woodlands.
Right. I think once we get the rains that are forecast for this week, and people start irrigating and sprinkler runoff, that lake will fill rather quickly.
I guess I'd like to request from Woodlands Water what it would cost to revisit this maintenance plan and see exactly how much it would cost for someone to go back out and visit these particular areas that we identified and see if there's other areas that we need to work on.
Okay.
Do you agree?
Well, thank you for being on top of it. You know,
I think we've already have a surveillance team in your mowing right. They seem to be doing, if they just are asked to look a little closer, I think you've already got somebody in place.
I don't think you've seen that book. Maybe if you visit that, you can get an idea of what we're talking about and see if it's worthwhile to review it again.
And it may be something that we can show them and say, hey, can you kind of take a closer look at some of these areas as you're going through, and maybe there's a cost savings there.
So these mowers contractors, are they?
Contracted service, yes.
That was an expensive proposition, putting that book together.
A lot of the things that they identify, we do handle in-house, but some of these larger ones like the Wedgewood Lake, it's not something we have to hire a guy.
Okay.
Mud 40 passed a resolution that said we would require the staff to walk the drainage ditches, not less than quarterly. And with coordination of staff, that's now once annually, they make a report. But it's very important to walk it and not just take a scooter and go on a bike paths. And we've wrung this question out over the years. And I'm comfortable the staff now at taking appropriate action on these ditches?
And also I had a question on the drainage ditches on the golf course. Some of them are really in very, very bad shape, particularly on the trails on the west course. There's several ditches that have been severely eroded.
I checked again, Bob, and you're exactly right. 2 or 3 of those that go through the golf course area. For some reason, the erosion, we had some big rains, as everyone knows. Really, I mean, ditches that when we started playing golf over there were almost step across, now are 40 and 50 feet wide with erosion.
Here's another solution to that. If you, with your newsletter that you're, or whatever you're going to put out to the residents of the district,
We're gonna put up.
or is going to be put out, that should generate an interest in what the MUDs do. And my hope, and I've proposed this in the past, that just as you have an adopt a path method, program, an adopt a ditch program would be just as viable. You're bringing in volunteers, you're increasing the interest in our water and drainage system, which is, you know, fascinating because it's a natural drainage, gravity based drainage system for stormwater. And I would suggest going down that path. And if you've got people out there interested in trying to preserve the beauty of the woodlands, I think that might be as easily as effective as having, you know, to hire somebody to do this very expensive report, and that they would be on top of things. They may have, if you had an effective volunteer group, they may have even identified that something was happening where the sinkhole eventually developed. It seems strange to me that that was all of a sudden something that happened.
What we think happened is it kind of bridged the grasses and the cables that are already in that area, kind of bridged it. It just kind of appeared overnight.
But I see a lot just bicycling through the district every day or two. And, you know, I mean, this would be something that I think you could make work.
Sure.
And it would increase the interest in what the MUDs do. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
All right, thank you. So good, you can get back with us.
Okay. Very good. All right, the next thing I had was, there's just a couple flyers in the packet this month. Both two different AWD events. One is upcoming April 13th. That's going to be they call it the spring seminar. The topic will be Texas housing trends. So that'll be on the evening of April 13th. And then another flyer on the back is to kind of make you aware of the AWD summer conference that will be coming up in June. And those dates are June 22nd to June 24th. If you hadn't ever been to the conference, there's quite a bit of good information and seminars that you can attend to take a look at that. So just 2 reminders there. And the reason it seems far away, but the sign up and registration for that is coming up, and there's a cheaper early bird, and then it gets more expensive the closer you get. So just reminding on that. Next I had a couple updates on some things that occurred in the trustees meeting. One was, I think as you all know, the trustees approved the strategic plan, strategic plan 10-0 vote. So that was last week. That was a long time coming and big accomplishment for the community. To speak on the One Water topic, I guess about a week or so ago, there was a planning meeting at the township to talk about resurrecting the One Water concept, and it was discussed and decided that yes, there was enough interest to potentially resurrect that in some form or fashion. So I know Bob has put together some things on what it maybe could look like or should look like. And so I think what's going to happen next is to identify how it's going to be, how it's going to evolve, who's going to be involved, and what are the focuses of that particular group as it starts to build back up. So we'll be monitoring that and getting involved as needed to see how we can help mold that.
I've got to run, guys, and
Take care.
500 miles ahead of me to northern Arkansas,
Uh-oh.
so I got to get going.
Be safe.
A family
Okay.
trip.
Have a good one.
All right, thank you very much.
Take your golf clubs.
No, this is not a golf club trip. Unfortunately. Yeah.
That's something that the Board of Trustees is gonna pick up the ball with it.
I don't know that we've been given direct guidance on their intentions on how they want us involved, but I know in the past we were pretty involved heavily. I know Jim was pretty involved in that process, so I would expect that we're going to be playing a fairly significant role at some point.
So we're waiting on the township then to.
I believe at their next meeting, they'll
Since you're on that, is it?
The understanding it would be back at a regular board meeting instead of a workshop for further
We had the old
discussion.
one.
All right.
So it hasn't officially been voted by the township. It was a planning meeting where they discussed this, and there was some positivity towards resurrecting it.
I think there's only one board member that voted against it, right?
I'm not sure.
Well, Dr. Bostic was our representative on the original water board, and she commented on it.
You know, my disappointment was that I didn't think anything substantive came out of a lot of people who were on the task force spent a lot of time and effort and energy to participate. And we did have great discussions. I think from my perspective, I was disappointed that Montgomery County did not have the clout or the organization toward flood mitigation that we saw in Harris County. And they formed a council supposedly in Montgomery County that was supposed to take the idea of the task force on, and I never heard anything beyond that.
There were 2 meetings and then COVID interrupted that process and it has not resumed.
It needs, it really needs to be at the county level, and there needs to be land use planning. And I hope that the Texas Water Development Board regional group, that we do have a representative in Neil Gaynor on that something will come of that'll be useful. But I, again, just am concerned that we're sitting ducks for the next Harvey that comes in here. And that was a disappointment. And so I hope that this board, the second coming of the task force,
Second coming.
will end up with something that's positive and workable.
You know, I think we're all aware of the failures that happened with the last one and the people that were involved but I think what we're trying to do is get people back to the table and just go in a different direction. We're not gonna be ready for the next Harvey if we don't get people talking again about it. And definitely it's a regional issue, you know, and this is something we need. And I think that, you know, we have board members now on the township that are willing to listen about things. And so I think that's what we're really just trying to do, is just get everybody back to the table, you know. Maybe the board of trustees or maybe we ought to form an internal task force about how we think the thing ought to be structured. And, you know, we've got two people here that were heavily involved and have a lot of knowledge about it. And, you know, we can get the other MUDs also with their input through the board of trustees and, you know, have maybe a white paper that we could give the township and say, look, we think this is the way this thing needs to be structured. But we're the ones with the knowledge.
I can bring that up with the trustees.
Okay,
All right.
anything else?
One other thing, just wanted to point out the Public Education Committee met last week as well to talk about some ongoing public outreach. There's a insert in your packet that has kind of some examples of some of the public outreach that's been going out per the kind of quarterly strategic communication plan. So just wanted to point out that that they look really, really good. And then they also talked a little bit further about, in light of the trustee vote on the strategic plan, obviously that is going to create quite a bit of work, quite a bit of infrastructure improvements, and there'll be some cost to that. So we're working with SGRA and others to develop a campaign that will kind of go forward over the next year or so to kind of educate the community about what's coming and all the infrastructure changes that are coming.
Yeah, I think you guys have done a great job on the website of getting information out there. I think it's a shame that the residents don't realize what's available to them, that they can utilize. In fact, I actually showed a person the lawn care chart that was in there about when to fertilize on the water and, and so forth. And they said, wow, how long's that been there? Quite a while, but there's a lot of information that they can gather out there. I told them, hey, look at the plants, that you can, it's good knowledge about what to use and what not to use and so forth. Just to add on to that, one of the things we're looking at on the Development Standards Committee, we have a meeting coming up, is sustainability. The requirements that we have for all the foliage and everything else is great, but there's only so much water out there too. And, maybe we need to look at some of the requirements that we have out there. What percentage that you really need of your front yard to, be grass and be shrubs. So we're going to be looking at that. And like I said, there's a lot of information that can be used on that website that can help.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
I'm gonna ask him to speak about
14 trustees reports, Hartley.
it. I would like Bob to comment. We approved the plan to go ahead and redo the sewer treatment plant at San Jacinto, and Bob was on that committee and probably can discuss it with Mr. Hildebrand.
That's I had some criticism on the study is that they were not doing present value analysis. And it was not in the scope of the consultant to do this. So I undertook this effort on my own, resurrecting what I used to do for a living 30, 40 years ago. So what we've chosen is not the cheapest alternative, particularly in the short run. It will result in higher cost to the taxpayer. But the technology between the existing plant and the membrane system that they want to put in is significantly different. So we'll have a higher quality effluent from the plant, and also we should have less odor, which is a concern of many residents along Lake Jackson. And it was, and also there was concern that the plant in this study was over-designed. It was probably twice the size of what's really needed. And this was brought up by George Newman. So we're now in the second phase of the study, which is going to basically focus on the design at what the engineers say, the 30% level. Chris, does that make sense?
Well, no, I'm sorry, phase two will be 10%.
The 10%? Okay. Which is going to come up with a whole new set of costs for that. But I think it's the committee and those who looked at it feel that we are making the right decisions and doing the right thing. Also did have another concern about the property that we're buying. If we don't get if the people don't volunteer to sell it, we have to exercise eminent domain to acquire the property. But there's also property north of the existing plant, almost the same size as where they want to go. And there's nothing on it. I drove and walked that property up there. But I did talk to Dan. Dan is not here about why they didn't consider it. And he said it's too close to other residential property that there's less.
There was a slide on that
Yeah.
property purchase, which is the next slide.
But the trustees have approved it and.
Yes,
I
we
think it's-
approved it and going forward and the bonding is a number of different using R&R funds and we're going to apply for some state funds, I understand. Is that correct?
Future phases for construction, engineering and stuff, those bonds or debt service in general is yet to be determined. We're going to use existing funds to cover everything in phase 2.
Yeah, we haven't come to that point, but this MUD has bought out of the last 2 San Jacinto River Authority bonds. And we want to consider buying out of the bond, which initially was thought of as a 25 million and now 50 million. And we have enough money to do that. So that would save us the 3%, the initial costs of the bond, which are significant. I appreciate the work that's been done by Dr. Bostic and Mr. Lilac on this. They've really worked diligently to keep us informed.
Yes, Harley.
No. Well, it might be of interest that we have a policy that excess funds held by San Jacinto River Authority or the Joint Powers Agency, now WWA, will be distributed at the end of the year. They were of such a nature this year that in both cases, they decided to retain the funds and use them because you would be given back the funds on the same basis that you're going to be charged for it when they use it for other projects. So no distribution on either one of those funds this year. That's basically it.
All right, thank you. Recess into session. We don't need that this morning. Okay, reconvene. All right, item 17, discuss any matters for future agenda.
I'd like on the future agenda to consider consolidating with the MUD 6. We almost succeeded 2 years ago. So I'd like to bring that up again. Any comment?
No, I think that's good. Go to them and ask if they want to consider it. Because we had opposition on their board and it was 3-2. And the prevailing 2 convinced their residents to vote not sufficiently to pass it.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was 2 for, 2 against, and 1 abstain.
Well,
Yeah.
that abstain was a no.
Yeah, well, effectively, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, we made the initial approach to consolidate MUDs. I think we ought to encourage the Woodlands Water to talk to the MUDs about consolidating because it is an advantage to the staff and is an advantage to the residents in cost savings.
Yeah, and I think we've had enough experience with the merger of 2 and 40 that it's worked well. And
Well, when you get 4 engineers on the board with the excessive experience that they have, it's wonderful.
Anything else?
If you do that, and go on with the idea of merger, we need to campaign a little stronger in 6 than we did. Find out what our restrictions are, but talk to more of the people in the District 6, because it came so close, it became really close.
14 votes, missed it by 14 votes.
The initial
We
concept,
didn't realize that.
what they did as they grew the woodlands, they did one mud and then another in Grogan's Mill, and they were going to consolidate them eventually. Then they did one and another in Panther Creek, and they were going to consolidate them. And then, in order to avoid annexation, they started, and the proliferation of muds, they started giving them places all over the map. So 46 was initially only high oaks. And you can see now it's one of the biggest muds. 47 was initially, they only had 2 in Cochran's Crossing initially as well. And all those were supposed to be combined as they paid off their bonds.
I'm not sure we can discuss all this.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a history lesson, that's all.
I don't disagree with you, but I'm not sure we can discuss all this, so we'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting. Anything else? All right. Item number 18, the favorite one. I have a motion to adjourn. So I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Thanks.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody.